Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gems of War Mythic of the Mithrilian. So this thing, of course, is in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest drop table, and after a week it'll be in the drop table with everything else. As far as the troop itself, it is a Kazale troop that is absolutely useless, just like Stonehammer. But it's a very weird troop. As far as what it does, its main gimmick is, of course, it has 75% skull reflect, which is kind of similar to the other skull reflects within the game. 50% is on Gloomleaf, and 25% is on many other troops in the game. Skull reflects in general do seem to be pretty low. 25% definitely feels like it should be closer to 50, 50% closer to 100, and this thing should be like 150 or 200% to really be viable. And unfortunately, it is not that. It also has 50% spell reduction, which it has going with armor gain, so it's almost like Tina 9000, except with a much worse ability. It gets to explode a 3x3 block, then gains a bunch of armor, and then barriers a random ally for every skull destroyed. This ability might sound pretty similar, and also seem pretty expensive for her 24 mana cost, and that is because it is. There is actually a troop that is basically a mythic for 13 mana costs, and it is Deep Golem. It's kind of funny because the cheap team is probably the first time ever that I've ever done a video for a mythic where you don't actually need the mythic to use the mythic, which is pretty funny. But yes, Deep Golem explodes a gem, barrier an ally for each skull destroyed, gain some life. Pretty much the only difference is it does armor instead of life, and it has a 1.5 times boost ratio based on its magic instead of a 1 times like the Golem has. But aside from that, it is basically a 11 higher mana cost for essentially the exact same thing. And the only thing it really has going is the few traits. One pretty noteworthy thing of what it's missing from these traits is Impervious. Unlike Gloomleaf, which is the other troop that has 50% Skull Reflect, it has Impervious, so you can't get it stunned. So that's obviously very beneficial, because if you're doing this, you generally wouldn't want it to be stunned, so that you can actually utilize the 50% Skull Reflect. However, you can't really do it with this, and given that's going to be in first slot, Bless doesn't really work that well either. So there's going to be a lot of instances where it just gets stunned, maybe off of like Titan Hero classes stun, or anything that has that barrier also has that stun whenever they get hit by skulls, or any other of the many stuns within the game, can end up just disabling all of its traits, and then it's basically just worse than a Deep Golem, which is, yeah, it's pretty bad. You're pretty much just getting this. If you're getting this, the only reason you're getting it is because you need it for Kazale Mythic, and the other one's Stonehammer. So you really have to choose between which one is less worse. Either Stonehammer or the one in the drop table right now. But anyways, let's go try to get this thing. We have quite a bit of gem keys right now, so we should be able to get it a little over 2,000. Hopefully it doesn't end up taking too many hundreds of thousands. No, we should be able to get lucky. So far, nothing, no. Normally it takes about 1,000, of course. Could take less, could take more. That's around where it's going to end up being. And of course, every other drop that we're getting here don't really need. One pretty weird thing about this mythic is you can't really use it too well with skull spam. The main reason for this is it doesn't really have any skull mitigation. So you can't really keep it alive as well, because any durability that it does end up gaining doesn't really end up helping it too much. The barrier, of course, does. So if you had a lot of barrier spam, you can kind of obfuscate it that way. One thing to note about Skull Reflect is it does still reflect the full amount, even if you are barriered. So if you're barriered and you take 0 damage, but you get hit by 100, he will still reflect 75. So if you're wondering why on earth it has barrier, that is why. It does indeed work with barrier for the reflect. And there we go. There's the Mithrilian. Let's go and get this guy upgraded and see how awful he is. But let's go get this guy. Upgrade. Level it to max. Oh, I could use an orb on that. Oh well. We'll just do it all manually at this point. Boom, there we go, max. Okay, let's go put him into the 2 teams, because that one will be showing with the other mythic. The epic that basically acts like the mythic. Replace that out. Replace that out. We'll show the actual mythic teams first, and then we'll show the cheap team that doesn't even need the mythic, that basically uses the mythic. We don't want that. Keep in mind, these are mostly just teams for fun. They're not actually too viable to be using, similar to this mythic. Also, apparently our PvP battles are awful, so I'll have to go over here and take out these. It's a little bit of a weird battle. Hopefully it's not too bad. We'll find out when we get decimated. Anyways, as far as this first build here, we are building into a construct build. One pretty interesting weapon. Of course, we don't have a construct hero class yet, unfortunately. But one interesting interaction that we do end up having is Stone Slicer. So as far as what Stone Slicer gets to do, it does have a boost ratio based on construct. It gets to create a bunch of brown purple. One pretty noteworthy thing about this is it does get to feed purple into its self. So you can end up doing that and feeding into something else. This happens to use a Iron Hawk, which you could use for a bunch of explosion, mana accumulation, and unlike this other mythic, does have impervious. And we also have the Glass Golem, which ends up doing a reflect for every single skull. So you'll be able to go and get quite a bit of value. Hopefully some amount of skulls will still be around from the Iron Hawk, though generally it's just going to board clear, which is perfectly fine because you're getting the mana accumulation anyways. And basically between the reflect and everything, you could essentially just let the enemy kill itself off of hitting you, while still be able to pressure it with other means. So that's pretty much the premise here. Ideally, we want to get Stone Slicer rolling so we can get all of our mana going and be good to go. So right off the bat, let's see, I kind of want a purple. I don't think we can viably take a purple, but we definitely want to move some mana around if nothing else. Now we can take a purple, and now we should be able to get everything rolling. We are actually forget if it has frontline damage. I'm going to assume it does. Good, it does. I thought it did. Wasn't 100% certain there. So, of course, we can go and have two things that have a on-skull effect here. So if we go and take these three of our allies will gain Reflect. Keep in mind, Reflect does stack with the other thing. So it'll do 50% Reflect for the damage they do, as well as 75% Reflect for the skull that they do. And, yeah, that'll end up being a lot of Reflect. We'll go to this, gain a bunch of mana. Hopefully he'll be able to actually cast his ability soon, which we can, of course, use for a bunch of barriers. And just kind of tank up. We'll kill the hero here just to make sure it's out of the way and pretty much be good to go. We're definitely going to need those barriers soon, but of course he has way too high of a mana cost for seemingly no reason. Should have been able to cast 1 billion times already. Of course, it is a part of the Golem family. There are quite a few Golem-like troops. Some of them don't even have the word in their name, like Mithrilian doesn't have the word Golem in it, but there is a kind of like a pseudo-typing of golems within the game. There's about a dozen or so of them these days. Generally, you can identify them if they do a 3x3 destroy and then have some kind of follow-up. That is a good majority of the golems. Like if they like somewhat golem-shaped and they have a 3x3 explode, they're generally a golem. Let's see. Do we want more reflect? I think we just go for this and hopefully be good to go. Pretty much always going to have some amount of skulls on the board, though right now not as many as we'd necessarily want. I do kind of want to go for some barriers. He has a lot of death marks on us. Luckily, we do have impervious there. Too bad this thing doesn't also have impervious. There's, of course, one downside to that, too, if we're not using a cleanse onto our team, is we still have to deal with all these status effects that are going to make it, yeah, a lot harder to really do much. We're going to try killing this before it heals too much. That it definitely can. Hopefully Death Mark doesn't completely decimate us this following turn. Luckily it does not. Not doing, actually, never mind. I was just about to say, not doing too good on the extra turns as we land an extra turn. We'll go for the explosion there, get a bunch of damage, get a bunch of mana accumulation. Were we even able to cast him a single time? I think we did once. One singular time. And should be able to get another poke. If he pokes us, it doesn't really matter because we still have 75% reflect since he hasn't stunned us. And do we even have a drop for that? No, we did not. What do we even want here? I want Yellow Surge. Does Yellow Surge even do anything relevant? Not really. The next one will, though. And that should be pretty close to match. Just need another little poke, and he'd be dead. Unfortunately, we did not have an option to end up doing the poke here. So I'll end up going doing that, and I will kill it up. There we go. As you can see, Mythic is pretty bad. It gets the job done, though. It's definitely going to be a fun kind of reflect Mythic. Oh gosh, that annoying team. Here we go. Here we have a Skull Spammer. A triple Skull Spam team. Now, if there is any team this team should work against, it is that team. So here we have a anti-do not get stun team. There are a couple different ways we could go about doing this, but we're doing Beatrix for the cleanse on the extra turn, and the Obsidious to stun them before they stun us, ideally. So that's pretty much the game plan here, and this will help try to keep Mithrilian from being disabled, though he'll probably find a way. Alternatively, you can also try blessing him. The problem with doing that, though, is generally if you're using Mithrilian, you're using him in first slot, obviously because it's 75% reflect and everything. However, if he's in first slot, whenever he takes a skull or uses his ability, because he doesn't have it on his ability either, he will end up dropping the bless, which will mean he won't have all the immunities anymore, so do be mindful of that. But it's kind of just like a little mix here. We do have a backup summon off the weapon, as well as it's the only yellow weapon that currently explodes, so we kind of had to go with this one. There's probably going to be better options into the future, but as it currently stands, that is the only yellow weapon with mass explode. That will likely be changed in the future as we get more, since that seems to be a type of weapon they've been adding quite a bit of lately. Do I have +1 on yellow? I should. I do not. I put it all on purple instead. That does not help me on this current board. We'll take this and get a 4x barrier. And by a 4x barrier, I mean a 3x barrier, because there's nowhere to get a 4x barrier on this board. I don't think we have a good cascade either. Of course, we can use this for board control to try to set something up. Unfortunately, I do not see a way to do that. Just double checking to make sure. It is early in the morning. I'll take that. Also, that was a 5x5 explosion, wasn't it? They said originally that it was supposed to be a 5x5, and they nerfed it to a 3x3. So hopefully they just change the text to 5x5, because even with a 3x3, he's useless. There's no reason he shouldn't have a 5x5. Honestly, there's no reason he shouldn't just explode the whole board. And even then, he'd probably still be useless. Honestly, if he had both impervious and exploded the whole board, I'm not sure if it would even be viable then. Though it'd be pretty close to viable at that point. Because at least you could keep it alive in first slot. And then you'd have a good mana accumulator. It'd basically be like a Reflect Gorgolfa. Instead of 75% score reduction, you'd have... Oh, that would actually be really cool. Explode the whole board like Gorgolfa. Make it a Reflect Gorgolfa. That would have been great. That is not what it is, though. Not close enough, anyways. Though that's almost seems to be like kind of what they went for. But didn't all the way. Because this mana accumulation is way worse than a Gorgolfa, that is for sure. So if this is a 5x5, yeah, we'll use it like a 5x5. There we go. I'm not sure if they're going to change that. Getting that reflect damage. Really wish that was at least 100% reflect, if anything else. 75% still feels very low. He has a triple skull spam team, and I'm barely even noticing that he's reflecting on us. Okay, I guess we want to take that over. Speaking of 5x5 explosions, we do have Obsidious on our team, which technically means we have 2 5x5s on our team. Get our barriers back up just to make sure we don't die. Get another explosion. Get explosion for our explosions. And we'll take that. Of course, Beatrix is blocked quite a bit on this team. Main reason for using her, of course, is more so for the cleanse than necessarily her ability. But now that she's a little unblocked, we actually can start using her for her ability, though. And that kills it out, with very little benefit from the Mythic itself. But before we go, let me show the Mythic that already existed. Ooh, Rope Dart's a bad one to fight it against, though. Let me find a, I don't know, should we do it against Rope Dart? I feel like it'll have a bad time against Rope Dart. Rope Dart kind of ruins the premise of this team. Or any score reflect in first slot kind of team. Infinite Loop, something less annoying for this type of team. Here we go. Okay. That's still annoying, but slightly less annoying. So, let's show the Mythic on a cheap team. And by the Mythic, I mean Deep Golem. The first time we can actually show it without the Mythic itself. So, if you don't have the Mythic, pretty much just use this if you want the same experience. Or at least this troop in general. As the ability is nearly the exact same. Explode a gem, barrier, and ally for each skull destroyed, and gain a bunch of durability. Same premise, 11 mana cost shorter. Main thing we're going to want to do here is get brown to get us rolling. However, there's a problem with this board relative to what we need to do. There is no brown, which is pretty bad because we're probably going to lose because of that. Let's see. Not yet. It's not over yet. Let's see. We're going to still be a little bit short, so that's not good. We'll still take our brown, though. We'll obviously need it. Red Surge would also be pretty nice right about now. He's starting to pressure us with a lot of damage. 50% Reflect coming in, but unfortunately, the Gloomleaf is already dead. The other Mythic would also have been dead at that point, since it wouldn't have had time to get a cast yet. However, this team does have a backup plan. Of course, Gloomleaf was mostly just used there because of the Reflect. However, what we can do is just Angry Mob spam. And of course this was here to make sure we could keep spamming the extra durability for the troop so we could stay alive. But it kind of didn't do the staying alive part, unfortunately. But basically we could use Deep Golem, keep alternating between it to keep ourselves alive. after we get the battle going a little bit. And basically every single time, just pick a bunch of skulls, get a barrier on apparently everything except the thing we needed it on. Very unfortunate. Of course, it does barrier based on how many skulls you end up doing it for. However, of course, you would have to actually do 4 skulls. It will consistently barrier your entire team if you do 4. That applies to the Mythic. This also applies to this. As long as you do 4, it'll guarantee barrier every single one. However, it can re-barrier ones that are already barriered. So let's say we had 3 barriers, and we then go do it again on, let's say, 1 skull. That 1 skull will not automatically barrier the thing that is not barriered. However, if we do at least 4 or more skulls within 1 explosion, it will barrier our entire team, which of course is pretty beneficial. As you can see right now, we're pretty much just sitting on a bunch of barriers. The backup Angry Mob spam has kind of won us the game. Of course, you could use Gloomleaf Reflect, but it kind of died a bit quick. Skull spam does hit hard. They both kind of have that issue in that they don't actually have any mitigation. Gloomleaf doesn't have any mitigation, and the Golem doesn't have any mitigation. So if you don't get their ability rolling very quickly, yeah, they're just going to die. And you'll get a little bit of Skull Reflect, but they don't really have much for survivability, which has always seemed like a weird mechanic for Gloomleaf. And now this Mythic, which is doing basically the same thing, also has that weird mechanic in that it doesn't really have a good way to survive at all until it actually casts. And even then, it has such a high mana cost that it could highly potentially be dead before it ends up getting that cast off. Unlike the other troop, which is much lower mana cost and actually has skull mitigation, so it can actually get it down and survive long enough to do so. And of course, you can use this in first slot. There's a lot of ways you could build Deep Golem. This is just a example to try to use Skull Reflect, but yeah, anyways, that's the new Mythic. As far as the final verdict, it is about as bad as it seems, so yeah, probably skip. The only reason you'd really get it is if you want to make sure you get a guarantee Mythic that you don't already have, or if you just want to go and get the Mythic for Kazale, because Stonehammer is pretty much similarly as awful, so pretty much either one you get is not really going to be too useful. There's actually an argument to be made that Stonehammer might actually be better than this thing, just because of its triple damage, burning synergy, and a few other weird gimmicks that it could do with 4 times burn and 4 times stun. And the fact if it gets super lucky with its gem creation, it can actually land an extra turn, though this thing can too. It does have board control. But overall, pretty bad Mythic. Definitely worth considering not getting if you're low on keys earlier on in the game. And if you are earlier on in the game, you literally already own the Mythic. And if you don't, you can get it from, instead of the key drop table, you can get the Deep Golem from Durgarroth in the Underworld. The exact location that you go for that is, actually forget, where's the Durgarroth faction? There it is. So you would go to Durgarroth faction. You would go to here. You would do a bunch of Chaos Shards. Actually, I might as well do some. We have like 1 billion of them. And we should see a copy of them. Of course, we would get 0. Please show me a copy of them. Let's see. We're trying to get the other Mythic. No, we did. We got Sacred Treasure. We got the other Mythic. There he is. And that's how you get him. Boom. Deep Golem. There you go. You got the new Mythic. Anyways, guys. That'll wrap it up for this video. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. We'll be streaming today at noon Eastern Standard Time. And I'll mostly be messing with the raid events that has a weapon that is probably better than the Mythic. It's a Dragon's Claw weapon, one the standard double gem creation. It's going to be pretty average, but pretty average is technically better than the Mythic. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Of course, all the teams will be in the description if you want to copy and paste any of them to mess around. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching, and best of luck if you are going to be trying for the Mythic this week.